Is Deadpool creator Rob Liefeld going to sue the Walt Disney Company? Is he going to sue Marvel Comics? It would appear that there's going to be some legal action of some kind happening, because Rob was out on Twitter last night tagging in Marvel, tagging in Bob Iger, Disney CEO Bob Iger, that legal action was headed his way. He put Bob Iger on notice. So, yeah, something's definitely up. Something is definitely up, and we're going to talk about that on this episode of Clownfish TV. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We hit 65,000 subs. We're hoping for 100,000. The reason we're pushing so hard for subs, guys, isn't that we're trying to panhandle. It's that the Google algorithm, the YouTube algorithm has changed, and it makes it harder and harder for channels like ours to get found. It really does. Every time YouTube makes some sort of algorithm change, it usually favors bigger companies, advertisers, and not independent voices like ours. So please give us a sub if you're so inclined, if you like the content. All right, so this is coming from Bleeding Cool. I've got a couple versions of the story. I was tagged in on a tweet last night by a friend of Clownfish TV, Aaron Sparrow. He said, what do you make of this? And I'm like, oh, I think this is about Deadpool. Absolutely think this is about Deadpool, because Deadpool now is big business. Not just the movies, but the merchandise. Now, I don't know what kind of deal Rob Liefeld has in play over Deadpool. And it's kind of weird about Deadpool, because Deadpool was basically created as a parody of Deathstroke the Terminator at DC. You know, he was kind of a parody character, and he became kind of his own thing. I don't know if Rob gets residuals from Deadpool or not. I have no idea. I'm assuming he doesn't, because at the time he created Deadpool, it was work for hire, and that was one of the reasons that Rob and Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, etc., left Marvel, was that they were not getting royalties on the characters that they created for Marvel Comics. And I really do think that this has a lot to do with why we don't see a lot of new characters created at Marvel Comics these days, because you create that character for Marvel and Disney owns it. They own it indefinitely, and you're probably not going to get any royalties beyond what your page rate was, or any deal you have set up for royalties on book sales, etc., etc. So, this coming from Bleeding Cool, Rob Liefeld dropped a shocking revelation on Twitter Monday night. The superstar artist revealed that he's spoken to a lawyer and is about to hold some feet to the fire over shady practices at Marvel. Liefeld tagged Disney CEO Bob Iger in the tweet. That's pretty brazen, right? Liefeld clarified it wasn't Marvel Studios he was talking about, but the New York branch headed up by Marvel chairman Ike Perlmutter. Yeah, there's actually two Marvels. People don't seem to realize there are two Marvels. There's Marvel Studios, which is Kevin Feige, and it answers directly to the Walt Disney Company, the Walt Disney Pictures. And then we have the other Marvel, which is like the old school Marvel, which is still headed up by Ike Perlmutter, who has been attached to Marvel ever since the Toy Biz days. And they handle the comic books, they handle some of the TV, etc. But it seems like Disney's moving more and more of the Marvel stuff over to the studio side, and they're sort of phasing out the Marvel Entertainment side of things. That's just my personal opinion, based on observation. I think eventually there will be one Marvel, but it will be one Marvel under Marvel Studios, answering directly to Disney, and not Marvel Entertainment. So Liefeld said, as for clarification, when I say Marvel, I'm not talking the West Coast Cinematic Branch, New York, as referenced here in the 2015 Hollywood Reporter. So that would be Marvel Comics, that'd be Marvel Entertainment. Liefeld dropped a few more clues about what he's talking about, but didn't go into much more detail. Gotta shake up that good old boy network that's been making things up as they go. You have no idea. I know Rob has had a lot of issues with Marvel. He's been very outspoken, and look, we know a lot of people in comics, they've had a lot of issues with both Marvel and DC over the years, but I actually hear more Marvel stories than I do DC stories. But, Rob has been blessed with celebrity, and he's been able to say things and get attention for saying things that, your run-of-the-mill creator probably couldn't, because some D-list writer has complaints about Marvel, they just get rid of them, and that's it. Rob Liefeld, who has seen a resurgence because of, being the creator of Deadpool. He does have a little more clout. So when he speaks up, people tend to listen, even if they don't like his art, and a lot of people don't like Rob's art, and that's fine. You don't have to. But there's no denying that back in the day, Rob was a huge deal. And, I think he's probably looking for Deadpool royalties. It appears to have something to do with Deadpool, but not Deadpool proper. So Deadpool proper is probably comic book Deadpool, if I had to guess. And he's probably talking about the movie rights. Maybe there's some shenanigans going on that they're trying to hold back on possibly giving him some royalties. There has to be some money involved. You don't sue people unless there's money involved, and probably big bucks. You don't go after Disney unless there are big bucks involved. Now, this is a true story. I talked to an entertainment lawyer a couple months ago, and they basically said that they will take on anybody, but they are really hesitant to take on the Walt Disney Company because they said Disney will actually just outspend whoever is suing them just because they can. And they're like, sometimes it doesn't even make sense. Sometimes it's easier for Disney just to settle, but even when they're wrong, they're right. And they'll just burn people through their money and call it a day, So, Rob, he has to have some kind of a case or something. I mean, for any lawyer to go after Disney, I hate to call it like a suicide run, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard because they have some of the craftiest entertainment lawyers on the planet working for them. So, good luck with that, I guess. I don't know. More, stay tuned. We're talking about Deadpool. This was all Liefeld had to say about it, but he did take a trip down memory lane regarding past legal disputes with Marvel. Yeah, Rob's had many issues with Marvel. He's also had many issues with DC. Rob just is a guy that doesn't fit into the mainstream comic book industry. He never really has. So, it's interesting to see him, tell people about all of his stories, his adventures in mainstream comics, when the story he put together is this guy was never cut out for mainstream comics. Like he just wasn't. And, but because of that, we did get Image. We did get, people coming out and doing more of their own things. We did get light shed on mainstream comics back in the 90s when, comic readers like myself were completely unaware of all the shadiness that went on. It was just accepted that if you wanted to draw comic books, for the most part, you went to work for Marvel and DC, and that was it. You collected your paycheck, you did your thing, you made the corporate comics, and that's it. And since that time, there's been so many more options available to creators, which is good. So again, regardless of what you think of Rob Liefeld, him being outspoken like he is has been of great value to anybody who wants to work outside of the mainstream comic book industry, in my opinion. So here's Rob. As artists, we have to protect ourselves from practices that compromise our livelihoods. I have always championed creators' rights, and I always will. True story. Back in '96, Marvel filed a motion against me that stated in the complaint that I created a character called Fighting American in order to prevent me from publishing it. It was sent over at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. The case was being heard 9 a.m. the next day. We contacted a rep in New York and flew Matt Hawkins overnight to assist with defending the motion. Fighting American was not created by me, but by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. And Marvel actually had published a compendium of the work in '87. Their attorney was shocked we showed up to oppose. So they were trying to sneak it in. They were trying to sneak it in. This is kind of how some bills get pushed through Congress too. Get pushed through because they sneak them in. And he's like, yeah, we showed up. We showed up. The motion was filed in a misleading manner in order to obtain a temporary restraint against my publishing Fighting American. Had the judge granted it based on the misleading filing, it would have taken me months to unwind the ruling, and it would have stopped me cold. The judge ruled against the TRO, as we showed Marvel had published a version of the comic they were seeking to stop. Then Marvel filed that Fighting American could not wield a shield as he had previously. Bottom line, we won the ruling as well. Fighting American went to press. I do remember that. A lot of people were like, oh, this is to thumb his nose at Marvel with Captain America. Marvel was not immediately available for comment. Of course not. They have to talk to their lawyers first and be told what to do and say. So again, he's being very vague about what's going on. Heroic Hollywood has it too, hints at legal action. Deadpool is big business. Deadpool is big business now. And again, I think this was kind of accidental. Rob did create the character, but the character, as we know it now, sort of came into his own years after X-Force. And he became kind of a really comedic character. When he was first introduced, he was kind of like, it was like a joke. I mean, again, he was a riff on Deathstroke. And, he had some funny one-liners, but it wasn't wasn't quite the Deadpool that we know today. That didn't happen until later. But he has become big business. He is one of Marvel's biggest characters right now. And that is surprising, to be sure. But he is. And I am guessing that Rob is trying to get some kind of money. Shake Marvel down for some kind of money. Either something was promised or something. I don't know. But suing Disney, that is a huge undertaking. Huge undertaking. Now, Liefeld's had a lot of issues lately with Hollywood and Hollywood accounting. I was very surprised. I heard on a stream a couple of months ago, I think it might have actually been Ethan Van Sciver's stream, that Rob had lost the rights to Youngblood. Youngblood was his creation. It was his Image Comics launch title. It was a big deal back in the day. It was sort of his take on the X-Men or on X-Force or Teen Titans. And, it was very, very popular. I really did enjoy the reboot from Awesome Comics. It had Steve Skroce doing the artwork for it. I thought that was pretty cool. But I guess there was some shenanigans around the reboot, and somehow he lost the characters. Like, Rob Liefeld lost the Youngblood characters. He was he was known for two things, basically. X-Force, well, now Deadpool. But X-Force and Youngblood, and he lost his own creations, which is so weird because, these guys were pushing for creators' rights, and I'm very, very surprised that he lost his characters like this. But it did happen, so we'll talk about that too, because this does kind of relate. Like, Rob is just trying to claw back, I think, what he feels is rightfully his. So 92 creator-owned publisher Image Comics was launching its Superstar Artist founders were all preparing the first issues of their respective new series, but only one could be the very first Image book. That book was Youngblood #1. Yeah, you know what? It was. My memory's foggy. I couldn't remember if it was Youngblood or Spawn. They both came out within a month or two of each other, if I remember, but it was Youngblood. Writer and artist Rob Liefeld's government-sanctioned superhero team. Now, 3 decades later, Liefeld is sadly walking away from them. Again, this is from a couple of months ago, from August, and I had no idea. I had no idea he had all of these problems with Youngblood. In a lengthy post to his Facebook page, Liefeld explained why his fans haven't heard anything from Youngblood, which celebrated its 25th anniversary in 2017 with the launch of a new volume of stories in a while. Apparently, it all boils down to a tricky exchange of rights to the characters that began more than 20 years ago when Liefeld left Image to form Awesome Entertainment. The Awesome reboot I loved. Again, Steve Skroce did the artwork for it. I thought it was great. And yeah, then it just disappeared, and I kind of wondered what happened. So here we are finding out. Liefeld took his characters with him when Awesome began, but he needed some financial backing to make the venture work and partnered with Scott Rosenberg of Malibu Comics to make that happen in a temporary capacity. When Liefeld found another financier, John Hyde, friction apparently kicked up between him and Rosenberg, and ultimately Awesome Comics ended in 2000. The split created a unique situation in which Liefeld, Hyde, and Rosenberg divided up media rights to Liefeld's creations, while Liefeld himself retained publishing control over the comics. In that division, Rosenberg ended up with Youngblood, and Liefeld continued publishing new Youngblood stories. See, I didn't even know that they did new Youngblood. I remember the 90s, late 90s reboot, including revivals in 2008, 2012, and 2017. Yeah, I didn't even realize they rebooted that recently, but cool. Fast forward to San Diego Comic-Con 2018. At that point, Liefeld, who come close to 2 different movie deals for Youngblood in the intervening years, claims that Rosenberg approached him to tell him he'd sold or partnered with a third party for Youngblood comics and toys. Oh, sounds like that deal's going south. That third party was a man Liefeld describes as unknown to him. in whom he names as Andrew Rev. According to Liefeld's Facebook post, Rev apparently approached him and informed me a number of times over the past year that he could make me a big success in comics, the next Todd McFarlane, and told me I could audition for producing Youngblood comics. You can imagine how well that went over. Yeah, you can audition to work on the comic characters that you created. You might be as big as Todd McFarlane. Even though back in the day, Liefeld, McFarlane, and Lee were kind of the holy trinity of Marvel Comics, Image Comics creators. They were all on pretty much equal footing in terms of sales, if I remember correctly. So as a result of Rev's supposed intervention in the Youngblood property, Liefeld ceased publication of the Youngblood 2017 comic and has declared that Youngblood will no longer be published by Image Comics or with my involvement. A parting of ways that'll be heartbreaking for fans. I share this with you following an unexpected conversation with this Andrew Rev guy about publishing. In short, it was very disrespectful, and I had to put distance between me, these people, my creations, which are now in a foreign domain. I had to convincingly wash my hands of this corner of my imagination. I have a pretty fertile mind and many new projects to advance, making the media rounds will be known soon enough. This was a much needed update and hopefully explains the current situation. Youngblood represented some of my finest work. I'm proud of all the work that was produced. Sadly, film companies will be reluctant to invest the time and money in a venture without the support and blessing of its creator. Well, yeah, but it didn't stop them from ruining Star Wars, did it? Disney bought Star Wars off George Lucas. George Lucas did not like the treatment of The Force Awakens. He did not like the direction Disney was going in, and they did it anyway. It's all about the money. Elsewhere in the same post, Liefeld assured fans that he maintains a productive relationship with the other Awesome Comics partner, John Hyde, and the two of them are still moving forward with a feature film based on Prophet, as well as pursuing Glory. So yeah, this is interesting. So he basically lost, control of Youngblood. He's walking away from it. It's dead to him. This is crazy. So he's probably not going to let this happen with Deadpool, even though, I don't know the specifics, but if he was work for hire, he's work for hire, and Disney's got some badass lawyers. So I don't know how it's going to go, but I wish him the best. I absolutely do. I think that creators, for too long have had their creations exploited by corporations with no financial benefit to themselves. It's very much an assembly line process working in comics. You've got multiple people working on a team, and a lot of times it's just, page rate, sometimes royalties. I've heard that a lot of companies are doing away with the royalties altogether. And at this point, it's basically comics exist for film studios to strip mine for ideas for major motion pictures that may or may not benefit the creators directly. There may be no financial benefit. If another Deadpool movie comes out and makes $1 billion at the box office, it's unlikely, but it could make $1 billion at the box office. Rob Liefeld probably doesn't see a penny for that. I don't know. I don't know the details of his deal, but we'll keep an eye on this because this is, I think, very important for anybody who works for a company, works in comics. Maintaining control of your creation, or at least maintaining a financial interest in characters and concepts that you've created for other companies. I think it's only fair. I think it's only fair that if you created something that goes on to make billions of dollars for another party, that you should get a cut. Even if it's a small cut, I think you should get a cut of that. So please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants here on Clownfish TV. This has been Neon, and we will talk later. Thinking about printing your own comic books, graphic novel, or manga? We recommend our friends over at Print Ninja. We've been using Print Ninja as long as they've been printing comics, and both the quality and price is excellent. Mention Clownfish TV and get an additional 5% overrun of your book order quantity printed for free. For free! That's free books, people. Just mention this offer on the phone or in the additional information box on the quote request form. That's printninja.com, or click on the link in the description below. Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.